Good morning, all students.
Good morning, madam.
Yes. Now, hope that all the students you can hear me well. Am I audible well?
Yes, madam.
Yes,
You
madam, loud and clear.
Okay.
Yes, madam.
Now, today we will start the session online because of the long weekend. Then your coordinating office decided to conduct the class online. Today we are coming to discuss in order to your course outline the topic 5 and 6 together. We discuss understanding the external business environment. So, as usual, last time we discussed the internal environment, but now before starting, what I mentioned you as usual, I will recap what you have learned so far. And then we come to today's session. And what about the relationship between the previous sessions? I link to today's topic. So then I would like to recap what you have learned. Actually, you know that the very first topic I mention always the introduction. In introduction, you understand the defining concepts and also the necessary background knowledge. Strategy, organization strategy, strategic management, and other necessary background knowledge. The importance, role of a strategic management, and also how it differs from other functional areas, as well as then evolution of strategic management from history to now. The second topic we focused on mind of the strategist. Today, what kind of an approach? Mind of the strategist. There are two approaches we discuss: strategic planning approach and strategic thinking approach. These are the two approaches because traditional approach is a strategic planning approach, but still most of the organization follow this kind of approach. But 21st century, we much more focused of strategic thinking approach. How different way of thinking, formulating, implementing, and review and control the strategies. So what about the planning approach? What about the thinking approach? Their characteristics, their drawbacks, barriers we discuss. But however, finally we come to some certain conclusion. Both approaches are needed in present day context. It means the mind of the strategist should be a strategic planner as well as the thinker. Strategic thinking is very essential to formulate the strategies. Planning approach is much more needed to properly implement the strategy and review and control. So you studied this topic. And third topic, we focused on setting the future direction. Setting the future direction. In setting future direction, actually from here onwards, we are discussing how apply the strategic management in practical organization. How formulate the strategies, implement and review and control. So in setting the future direction topic, I introduce what kind of a process followed. Even though in practice, most of the organizations, the managers and all that, this kind of a process they follow. Then what about the setting the future direction is the first step. It means we have to formulate vision, mission, goals, objectives. These four reflects the future direction of an organization. So in this topic, we discuss what are the main factors influencing. What are the main factors influencing to set the future direction? Students, what are the main factors? Then you unmute and talk. After that, again, you mute. Students, what are the main factors influencing to set the future direction? Last time also I asked. Yes, any student? Nobody is talking. It is better to, that interact via online, because I'm talking to the machine. You can listen via machine. Yes. 24. Mayura, Mayuri, Malit.
Strategic leadership.
Yes, good.
Strategic philosophy.
Strategic philosophy. Strategic leadership.
Sorry, corporate philosophy.
Corporate
philosophy.
Yes.
Strategic thinking.
And industry.
Future story.
Yeah, future foresight, industry foresight. Then these are the main factors which influence to set the future for an organization, to formulate vision, to develop mission, goals, and objectives in an organization who provides the strategic leadership, the top management. And also, what about the organization corporate culture, the values, attitudes, the norms, behaviors, and all that. And also strategic thinking. In the previous topic, we understood that different way of thinking over the competitors to bring the competitive advantage. And industry foresight means the organization, which kind of industries belong, then we had concern about what about their future in setting the future direction for the organization. So in addition, we discuss in detail the vision, mission, goals, and objectives with examples. The fourth topic, actually, after having decided vision, mission, goals, and objectives, is next one is what? Formulating strategies. Formulating a strategies, it can't be done in a, within few hours or something like. It needs a vast strategic analysis. Then, after decided the future direction, from here, we apply what? Johnson and Schuler's basic model. I talk about that at this level. I focused an application of the Johnson and Schuler's model to discuss the strategy formulation, implementation, review, and control. You have already known that the Johnson and Schuler's basic strategic management model, including 3 elements: strategic analysis to understand what? To strategic position, strategic choices we identify, evaluate and select best one, and put into action, strategy implementation. So, after having decided the future direction, then we can apply Johnson and Schuler's model, the first element, strategic position understanding through strategic analysis. So this is the strategic analysis. Today we are, the fourth topic, we started that one, fourth topic. So the fourth topic, the strategic analysis, there are 3 aspects. What they are? Strategic analysis involves in 3 analyses. What they are? Last
internal environmental,
yes.
External environmental, and stakeholder expectations.
Yes, good. Internal environment, external environment, and the stakeholder analysis. Last time, I have provided the overview to strategic analysis. What about and what kind of analysis involves and all that. So, giving the overview to strategic analysis and discuss internal environment. Internal environment. Students, in internal environment, what we analyze to understand the strengths and weaknesses? What we analyze? Students, in internal environment, what we analyze? Last time I discussed. At least
and weaknesses and threats and opportunities.
Internal environment analysis, what it involves? Which kind of things we analyze?
Strengths and weaknesses of the
Yeah.
in the
To identify the strengths and weaknesses, what we analyze, I ask, to decide the strengths and weaknesses. To determine the strengths and weaknesses, what are the things we analyze?
We are doing environmental scanning.
I couldn't catch up. What you said?
We are doing environmental scanning to identify the strength and weaknesses of
Yes, yes.
internal
That's why
environment.
I ask you environmental scanning. I ask you internal environment scanning. What are the aspects we analyze? Internal environment to determine the strengths and weaknesses. Throughout the session, last time I discussed these things. What are the things we analyze to determine the strengths and weaknesses in internal environment analysis? Huh? You think about that to determine what kind of resources we are having, to determine the strengths, what we analyze. Resources, we discuss. Other one?
Competencies.
Competencies. Other one? Based on these two, what they make?
unique resources and unique competencies.
Yes. Then ultimately what it form? Strategic
Capabilities.
capabilities. These are the things I want to answer. That's why I ask you. You are saying that you said that the different way of, because I asked through internal environment analysis, yes, to determine the strengths and weaknesses. What are the aspects we analyze? We analyze the resources, competencies, then they converted to the unique resources, unique competencies, then it makes strategic capabilities. The strategic capabilities that determine the strengths and weaknesses. Throughout the session, I discussed these things, and after that, in detail, I discussed strategic capabilities. Once the organization develop a strategic capabilities, how it could be sustained. The strategic capability means what kind of a capabilities which could be developed by the organization over the other competitors, So, in detail, we discuss the strategic capabilities, how it can be sustained, how manage the strategic capabilities, understanding the limitations, and how develop strategic capabilities, maintain strategic capabilities. So various aspects we discuss, how to diagnose strategic capabilities. There are many tools, but I focused on only the value chain, analysis, how an organization could identify the or diagnose the strategic capabilities to properly manage by managers in an organization. So then the fifth session today, I designed the fifth and sixth both because it is vast area focused on external environment analysis. External environment analysis. External environment analysis. Then that is the thing today related with the previous session and how link the Johnson and Schuler's model, external environment analysis. It is very wide one. That's why I decided to discuss in 2 sessions. And next time also the rest of the part of external environment. To another aspect, strategic analysis, you know that stakeholder analysis. After having completed the external environment analysis, we focused on stakeholder analysis. And after that, we are coming to strategic choices. What are the options, different business strategies? So this is the way going on. Then I think students, when you are studying and what you have learned last time, then it is better to at least the main things you should have in your mind. Actually, when you are going to start for your studies near to the examination, then you will surely struggling, because each day if you are trying to understand, sometimes you are some places, if you are unable to understand, you can ask, but at the end all the things are something like confusing, it is somewhat difficult. So it is better to then day by day you are keep in touch with the each area and gaining the knowledge. That is very important. Yes, okay. Now you are clear with today what about the topic external environment analysis. So here you can see that the external environment analysis. Actually, external environment analysis, then we are discussing, dividing in the external environment. Last time I can remember I have given something like an overview. The external environment divided into something like these layers, 4 layers, and we are coming to discuss. So then this is the content today, the external environment analysis. You know that just before I mentioned you that referring to the Johnson and Schuler's strategic management model, now we are here. You said that there are three analyses. Internal environment we have already discussed. Today coming to the external environment, and next session after that, the stakeholder analysis. Stakeholder analysis. Actually, strategic analysis for what? To understand the strategic position of the organization in terms of internal and external environment. What kind of a position? Actually, strategic analysis we conducted to understand the current position. Other organization එක ඉන්න තත්ත්වය understand කරන්න තමයි in internal environment and external environment. We do the strategic analysis to understand the current position, a strategic position of the organization. Then next time lead to develop the options. Yes, the strategic management model. Now, I think last time you understood the internal environment. I talk about that internal environment analysis. Organization decide what they can do because based on the strengths and weaknesses. You know that I have mentioned we analyze the resources, unique capabilities, core competencies to identify the strengths and weaknesses. Today we related to the external environment. By studying the external environment, firms identify what they might choose to do. Because in the market, what kind of opportunities and threats. To identify the opportunities, to capture the opportunities, and to minimize the threats, then what kind of opportunity is suitable to my organization? It depends on the external environment, what they might choose to do. මොනවද අපි කරන්නේ ඒක තීරණය කරන්නේ market එක external environment. So for that purpose, then we are doing external environment, particularly to identify the opportunities and threats. Then this is the contents. Then before the previous few slides, I focused on the previous sessions and linked to the today's session. And understanding the external business environment consisting of different layers, we are going to analyze markets and customers and competitors, industry sector, industry or the relevant sector, macro or global environment. Later on, I will show you then how divide the external environment to these categories. This is a one, this is the second one, industry sectors, third one, and the macro and global environment. Like that way we divided. And for the easy way, we analyze the external environment. So to analyze the external environment, what kind of a tools and frameworks we can apply to analyze? different tools, some models we can apply, and understand their impact. Implications means the impact of external environment analysis. What kind of a positive and negative. And finally, I focused on in this topic, very popular technique, SWOT analysis. SWOT, internal environment, opportunities and threats, external environment. So this is a very popular technique. Finally, I focused to that. So these are the things, session 5 and 6. All the students, you can remember, I discussed this topic within 2 days because it is somewhat too long a session. Yes, then the whole session 5 and 6 included these areas to discuss. Then you know that I recall your memory. Then Johnson and Schuler's detail model, strategic portion to understand, involved in a strategic analysis, the external environment, internal environment. The internal environment we have already discussed. Today's session linked to here, the external environment. This is a stakeholder analysis. Stakeholder analysis. Then after this, I focus to here. Other two elements, strategic choices and implementation. Now you can understand that this is the detail model of Johnson and Schuler's. Earlier, I have shown you the basic model. The Johnson and Schuler's developed the detail model. Actually, in future, all topics related to these kind of areas in your course. Today's session focused on external environment analysis. You have already known that. What about the external environment? The external organization environment includes what? All elements. What about? Existing or outside the boundary. Existing outside to the organization. That have what? The potential to affect the organization, that have an impact to organization performance, but outside factors. Now, as an example, in Sri Lankan context nowadays, what about the economic, political, social crisis? How impact to different organizations? The economic factors change, how impact to the banking sector, financial sector. Likewise, then external environment means all the factors and forces outside to the organization and have impact to organization performance. Then I talk about that layers. For the easy way to analyze the external business environment, divide it into some layers. This is a macro environment, but as students, you can understand that this macro environment divided into 2 layers. The macro environment. What about? One environment is outer layer, global, outside to the country, an impact to a particular organization established in a particular country. And other layer is within a country, macro environment. Macro, sometimes it says that the social environment. This is a within a country. This is a global, outside to the country. And this is an industry. Every organization belongs to a particular industry or sector. We can analyze. Other one is very closer to the organization, we could identify competitors. Separately, we analyze the competitors, and the markets means what? Customers. Customer analysis. Then the organization. This is inside, what about? Internal environment. Now you can understand that there are 4 layers. Outer layer, we could identify 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I am going to discuss these 4 layers related to the external environment, how we are going to analyze. This is the 5th and 6th sessions together. And today I hope to discuss up to here discuss. So the next day I am coming to discuss the rest of the part. Then students, when you are learning, you can make an attention and write brief notes. So never forget about the key things when you are coming next day or forever your life. You can remember the things. But if you are unable to make an attention to the session, but nothing goes to mind. That is the problem. I noticed that in the class also some students, not all, sometimes they are feeling sleepy. At present moment also, I don't know how far students you are making the attention because I can't see. But I can ask you to switch on the video, but I am not asking because it takes more data. Then today here 51 student except myself, 50 students nearly. Then you make an attention and step by step you can understand logically and systematically. Then if you are studying like place to place but nothing goes to mind. So if you are studying any kind of a subject, it is better to very systematically study. Okay, now you can understand that how divided the external environment layers for the easy way to analyze in next time to formulate strategies. Yes, now you understand well so far. Then I talk about that the macro environment. That is the highest level of layer. You can understand that, but I have already explained the macro environment. This consists both environmental factors and impact to greater or lesser. Something like for some organizations, something like not a much influence, but some factors are much influence. Now, as an example, the banking organization is much influenced by economic factors. Likewise, impact to greater and lesser extent on almost all organizations. I talk about that this macro environment divided into two layers again, the global environment outside to the country, outside. Now think about in Sri Lanka, then a particular organization is operating here. But what about the globally happen? The changes economically, financial, technological, how impact to my organization, which is established in Sri Lanka. That is the global environment and local environment or societal environment within a country. Then local environment or societal environment, how impact to organization. Now, I think I have already explained these things. I have given small points for each one. Then, now, from here onwards, up to here, I have provided the overview to the external environment and linked to the previous topics and how or where it is related to the Johnson and Schuler's basic model. From here, we are coming to analyze the external environment somewhat in depth, analyzing and understanding the global societal, macro or industry environment, positioning your organization in relevant to global societal and industry environment. What kind of a position we are having? Either maybe a more favorable externally or internally unfavorable, or internally more favorable and externally unfavorable, or for some organization, both environments are favorable. More strengths and opportunities are given rather than the weaknesses and threats. So we are coming to analyze the external environment. Before starting the analysis, I think last time also I have shown you these are the tools, some models, frameworks that could be applied to analyze the internal as well as external environment. But today we focused on external environment. Global environment, the very outer layer. To analyze, we can apply global trend analysis. What are the trends going on and what are the declining things? And also the PESTEL analysis. Later on, you can understand PESTEL, what about the political, economical, social, technological, environmental, and legal analysis. Then within a country, societal environment, or within a country macro environment, we can apply PESTEL analysis, key drive analysis, and scenario analysis to analyze that environment. And industry environment. The industry environment, including here this diagram, competitors, industry analysis, competitor analysis, and customers together. What about strategic group analysis? You heard about that 5 forces model, competitor intelligence analysis, market analysis, and customer. All these analyses we could apply to analyze the industry, competitors, and the markets, customers. These are the tools. And this is the internal environment, the strategic performance. All these are influenced. Now, last time we analyzed the resources, value chain, then we not much focused on portfolio analysis, but next time separately we analyze what? Stakeholder analysis. Then internal environment analysis, we much more focused on the core competencies, resources, competencies, core resources, core competencies, and finally analyze the strategic capabilities. Now, this kind of a diagrams also, it provides the very wide overview, which kind of a tools and techniques that could be applied to analyze the external environment. Students, so far, is there any more clarification? Please ask me, students. Because not like in physically, I couldn't see your faces. So I also talk to the machine. You also, what I mentioned, you listen via machine. So if you are unable to understand or if you want more clarification, please ask me, I will explain. Yes, I think so far it is good. Then we are moving to start from the external environment analysis from very outer layer. It means what? Starting from the global environment and coming to here. It is easy way. Then global environment, we are starting to analyze the global environment. Initially, students, you should know what about the global environment. I think so far you are having some common understanding, and what I have provided the overview. Global means outside to the country. All the broader, what about political? P refers the political, economical, social, technological, and natural environmental, natural factors and forces of other regions, not in Sri Lanka as an example, other regions or countries indirectly affecting the current and future performance of an organization operating in a particular country. Think about that as an example in a Sri Lankan company, Sri Lankan organization, business organization, how it is influenced by the global political changes, economical changes, social, technological, and natural factors and forces in a particular region or South Asian region or in particular country, indirectly, not directly, indirectly affecting the current and future performance of an organization. Now, as an example, think about that in the country of Japan, something like some situation, the severe tsunami may be there. It is an environmental factor, not an economical. It is a natural environmental factor. But you know that in Sri Lanka, then some organizations are there involved in automobile industry. Then importing automobiles from Japan and selling here, that kind of a business organization. Then when the country has natural disaster, like we assume that the tsunami, so at that time, in the Japan, the automobile producing factories, then Toyota, Nissan, other kind of companies, then their factories are damaged, so they closed. Something like for 3 months, 4 months. Then it affects to Sri Lankan business organization where it involves importing and selling the automobiles here. Now, you know that something like some clashes, they are in the India, very close a country to here. Then something like it affects to Sri Lankan business organization. I can remember, I think 3-4 years back in Tamil Nadu, some clashes are there. It affects to Sri Lankan textile industry, textile companies, because they were unable to import textile from India. Some situations, we import some kind of things like some spices or something like we imported chicken from India. But in India, some period of time having some diseases. So at that time, we restricted. Now, you know that a good example during the COVID-19 period, most of the countries, they restricted their imports, restricted due to, you know, that is spreading the COVID-19. That is what? Natural disaster. Then how Sri Lankan organizations are affected. So later on, I'll come to discuss the global environment. You can understand that. What about the global environment? All the broader political, economical, social, technological, natural environment factors and forces in a particular region and or countries. The factors and forces are there in globally, but they are affected to particular region or countries, organizations operating indirectly. So this is the global environment. However, global environment analysis, I talk about that. What about? There are two tools we can apply here. I refer to again this slide, global trend analysis and PESTEL analysis. PESTEL analysis also we can apply societal environment. So at that time I discussed together because the same factors we are using. Then, however, we can apply one of the main tools, global trend analysis. We can look at that globally. What are the trends? In globally, what are the trends? The political and legal trends are there. Now, you know that some period of time in America, when the Joe Biden came to the power, at that time, most of the countries, they are keen about that, the business organization, what about the new USA presidents, the policies, because the America is the world very powerful, economically powerful country. What kind of decisions they are making, they affect to organizations which are operating in different countries. And what about the legal trends? Economic, in the world, something like economic recession, then how impact to different countries, organization, and financial crisis situation in globally. And social, cultural, demographic trends. What about the population trends, the cultural changes, social changes? Now you know that in the world, something like attitudes are changing, values are changing, behaviors are changing. Now, as an example, think about that most of the people now, they are the dressing styles, attitudes, something like a westernized in most of the Asian countries. So it is affected to the organization which are operated in the Asian region. And cultural changes. The technological, you know that, what about the global technological changes? You know that the 1 minute, then came a new technology to the world. So the nanotechnology, the global trend, the globally then having how impact to organization in different countries and technical trends, technological and technical trends. Then the global natural and ecological trends. We had on most of the last couple of years, the global natural trend. You know that the pandemic situation, it is a natural disaster. And also some countries having natural disasters, earthquakes. Now the recently happened in something like a Morocco, the severe earthquake damages. Some situation in Bangladesh, severe flood. In India, some natural disasters. How impact to other countries, organizations? In USA, what kind of a natural things? The ecological trends, the environmental. Now, you know that today the global warming, globally happened, the global warming, and how impact to different organizations, that kind of thing. The global trend analysis. But as an example, I am giving recently, what about the obvious trends in global environment? The organization which are operating in different countries, then they concern about that how these things impact to their organization. International politics and wars, you know that recently, then long period of time having Russia and Ukraine, the war context. So how impact to other countries? In Sri Lanka also, you know that our main tea buyer is who? Russia. the political situation between different countries, how they impact to different organizations, the political changes, international terrorism activities. If something like there is a trend of then internationally many terrorism activities, how they impact to different organizations in different countries, and more focused on regional unionization. You could see actually when you are studying something like you have to have the some business world trends, global trends, because you are managers, you are accountants, so you should know what are the things happening. Actually we could see in recent the most of the managers in organizations, you are also a manager because you are an accountant, you are going to become an accountant, or some students they are uh, employing the top level capacity in an organization, but you should know what about the things happen in the globally. The general understanding should be there, not only managing the organization within the box. Then you have to concern about the out of the box, because what are the things happening in and globally. Regional unionization, you know that some regions, European, you know that union is there, how doing the businesses in Europe. So then they decided to, Euro is their currency also, the when engaging the business in that European Union. And Sri Lanka, you know that SAARC countries, they make some kind of unionization, and they make some policies to operate to doing the business among the SAARC countries. So you could identify NAFTA, SAPTA, European Union, likewise various kinds of regional unionization is there. Trade unions are there. So at that time they decided that is the way we are doing businesses across the organization. Then they are influencing to different organization, business organization. And new economic powers. What about the refer BRICS, students? BRICS?
Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa.
Yes, good. This is the BRICS, the economic powers. Now, actually, India also already achieved now. Then coming to the more economic powerful country. So then many countries like a new economic powers, they influence to other countries. So emergence of new industries based on a clean tech. Then you know that we much more concerned about the technology factors, the green and technology also, green environment we concern about, then when we focus into the new industries. And changing traditional business. T business means traditional. Business to what? Electronic business. Now you know that most of the business organization, they engage in online buying and selling, online deliveries. I talk about that the Amazon.com also, then they use the online deliveries and drone deliveries also they are going to plan to introduce, then the Walmart, then electronic business. And middle age, our population pyramid in the world, population, the demographic factors, middle age population and Muslim population is going up in the world, the population pyramid. So they are influencing to different organizations. Then population, gender-wise, males, females, the aging population, like now the middle-aged population is going up, means the aging population is going up. It affects to different demands for different services and the different goods. And also then children, population is going down, it means what? It affects to some industries like toys industry. The demand may be decreasing. Then it is very important, what about the population, the demographic factors. And more focused on global warming these days, because it is badly impact to organization, badly impact to people as well as different organizations, the countries. So how impact to the global warming, because some organization, what about their some functions, it affects to global warming. So organization, they should concern about, especially in manufacturing organization, what about whether they are contributing to happen the global warming, how we can reduce it. Increase in natural disasters and pandemics. You know that nobody expected the pandemic situation like what we had experienced last 2-3 years. So then that is the something like in the world, the pandemic situation and natural disasters, more and more. Now these days also in Sri Lanka, then having severe raining, and it affects to some agricultural organizations, as well as Sri Lanka is a other part, they are suffering from the severe drought also, the water problems and all that. So natural disasters and pandemics, and increasing concern for business ethics, that is another important thing. All over the world, in globally, concern about the business ethics, the good practices, and the corporate social responsibilities. Due to it influences to organization to do have to follow the ethics, the good things in business organization, their production, marketing, HRM, then financial aspects managing, how we can follow the ethics, the good things, right things, rather than the wrong things. But all over the world, they highly concerned about what about the business ethics, should the organization be followed. And CSR, then corporate social responsibility towards the general society, towards the larger society. In the world, there is a trend, but organization is affected. They have to also concern about which kind of a business ethics we should practice, as well as which kind of a social responsibilities, corporate level we have to engage. And increasing globalization. You know that what about the globalization? Globalization concept means the whole world is considered as one economy, one economy. Then they are influencing to organization which are operating in different countries, because in Sri Lankan company, when they are producing a good or service, they have to concern about that we are producing to the whole world under the concept of globalization. So these are the obvious trends in the global environment. So if these things are changing, how impact to different organizations? Not the same way, because I talk about that some changes directly impact some organizations, some are lesser influence, some are high influence. Then another tool is there, you know, that to analyze the global environment, pestle analysis. But I will talk about this tool together. Societal environment, or within a country environment, and global together, same factors. So then I'm coming to discuss the next layer. But I mentioned you that in the outer layer global, next one macro or societal. Within the country, then political, economical, social, technological, natural, environmental factors within the country, how impact to organization which are operating in the same country. All the broader country specific, political, economical, social, technological, natural factors and forces, that indirectly, not directly affecting, because these are influenced into here and come into the organization. Factors and forces that indirectly affecting the current and future performance of an organization operating in where? A particular country. Within that country, the specific sub-environmental factors like political, economical, social, technological, natural, environmental factors indirectly affecting. Then in formulating strategies, we have to understand the societal or macro environment analysis. So what are the tools? Macro environment or societal. Now you have already known that within a country, these kind of changes, how impact to organization which are operating within that country. These are the three tools. PESTEL, key drivers, and scenario analysis. Then these three tools we can apply to analyze the macro or social environment within a country. Within a country, social environment. I think now you could understand. Is there any more clarification? Please ask me. Okay, now these are the three tools we can apply to analyze the macro or social environment within a country. The important feature is you can underline these three tools are what about? Interrelated. It means what? Later on you can understand. This
Madam,
technique.
excuse me, madam, I got one question.
Yes.
In the PESTEL analysis, normally, as per my understanding, is PESTEL analysis we do before entering into the market in particular country. Is that, or still we are in the business in particular country, we can still do the PESTEL analysis?
Yeah. Now, here we talk about that within a country operating organization. Your point is correct. Then when we are going to international business organizations are there now. As an example, think about that domestic company. When they are going to international business, internationally, South Asian or other country or other region or globally, at that time we can analyze the global environment. Okay,
Okay.
global environment. So
Okay.
then this is related to the international business organization. In Sri Lankan domestic business is moving to the international market. At that time we can analyze the global environment or regional environment. Now as an example, think about that. In Sri Lankan domestic spices company, they are bringing to Indian market or international market. Or then we have to analyze the Indian, the environment, social,
Okay.
political, technological environment. Or we are bringing to the South Asian countries. So
Yes.
all South Asian region, the political, social, cultural, economical trends we have to analyze. Okay.
Okay.
Now
Got
here
it.
we are talking about in considering a single organization which are operating. But your point is correct. When we are bringing to the international market, we have to analyze the global environment or regional environment where the business is moving to international. Okay, have you understood?
Yes, madam, got it. Thank you very much.
Okay, okay. Now, then we are coming to talk about within a country for an organization in formulating a strategies, we have to analyze the within the country PESTEL factors and key drivers and scenarios. The important thing is these three tools are interrelated. It is what? PESTEL is needed to key driver tool to implement, and these two are needed to scenario analysis. That's why the interrelated. මේ තුනම එකට සම්බන්ධ වෙනවා. මොකද PESTEL කියන එක ඕනේ අර tools දෙක implement කරන්න. Yes. Then what about you can understand later on, PESTEL provides a very wide overview because we analyze the political, economical, social, technological, environmental, and the legal. The same thing we can apply in a globally also. That's why I talk about that the global environment analysis two tools. One is a trend analysis, other one PESTEL. But here I talk about these things. The same factors we can also analyze in globally. The key drivers, what about? Key drivers means in PESTEL factors, which kind of a factor is most influencing to my organization, most important. Now I talk about that the banking industry organizations are influenced. What about the key driver? Economic factors, something like a higher education institutions. What about the key drivers? Government policies towards the higher education. And scenarios means, later on you can understand, scenario means a particular situation. Scenario එකක් කියන්නේ එක්තරා අවස්ථාවක්. So build on key drivers help to explore different ways in the which macro environment might unfold, reveal. Scenarios means later on you can understand when I come to that analysis in detail to discuss. Scenarios means in a very uncertainty environment. It is difficult to forecast or predict. At that time, we develop possible situations. Possible situations, develop and analyze. Next time to easy to develop strategies. So these are the 3 tools. I think now, students, you can understand so far. If you want more clarification, please ask me. Then the one important tool, PASTEL framework. This kind of a framework, the similar factors we can apply where? In global environment. But I have not discussed separately the global environment because same thing. Then this knowledge you can bring to international market also, analyze the global environment. The PASTEL framework categorizes, the name implies that a standing. What about political, economical, social, technological, environment, legal? Then taking the first character of these sub-environments, we could identify like a PASTEL framework. This is a very popular and useful technique to be adapted to analyze the macro or societal environment within a country. And this framework also apply where? In global environment to analyze. The PASTEL framework, as an example, we can analyze in the political factors related to social factors, environment. Some of the examples I have given for the easy to understand. The political factors, we can analyze what about in a country, the government stability. Now in Sri Lanka, somewhat it is not a, that a stable government, because in something like in a clashes and not a stable, how they impact to business organization. Sometimes their policies may be different. Now then these days, what about the tax policy? When the new government came, totally maybe, that changed the tax policy like that way. The instability and stability of the government, how they impact to my organization, which is operating in Sri Lanka. And taxation policy, that these days in Sri Lanka, what about the taxation, the income tax as well as the turnover tax, then how they impact to the organization, as well as the tariffs. Then that the tariff is very important, the import tax and the export tax. Import tax is very high. Then they influence to different organizations which are engaged in the import and export. The trade regulations, time to time, which kind of a trade regulations coming by the political sub-environment. They are positively and negatively impact to organization. Some opportunities bring, and some situation it brings the threats to organization. Social factors, what about the demographics, like a population, with the population, the aging population, gender-wise population, education level-wise, and regionally and urban living population. These are influenced to organization under the social factors, lifestyle changes. Now in Sri Lanka, that most of the families, they are very busy. Then there is a trend of increasing demand for fast food restaurants, the fast foods. And social trends, attitudes, the values, behaviors, the lifestyle patterns, they are changing, lifestyle, education levels, but that the education level is increasing of people. And consumerism, today that most of the people, they spend much more consumerism than for consumer goods and services. So then demanding, consumerism is high, means demanding for organization, for some organizations. The environmental regulation, time to time, which kind of a regulation it influenced to business organization. I can remember a couple of years back in Sri Lanka also, government regulation, environmental regulation is there. When business organization, they are producing the polythene, then what about the different, that polythene content included the thickness. So then for some organization, it makes like a threat, very small organization which engages in producing the plastic things. Waste management, nowadays also highly concerned about in Sri Lankan government, the waste management, they influence to different organizations, either maybe positively or negatively. And energy issues are there in Sri Lanka facing under the environmental. You know that electricity power, the water, and all that energy issues. Then how we can face to that? Now you know that energy issues are coming. You know that solar power services producing organization high demand, high demand. Then economical changes, GNP growth rate, and also inflation, unemployment, interest rates. These are very important. When you consider about in Sri Lankan context, very important, the economical factors for banking, financial organization, and also other organization. Technological, rate of technological changes in, you know that the within the country also technological changes, technology, how transfer policy. Now you know that in Sri Lanka, the technological advancements and also the pandemic situation, most of the organization, they adapt to the technology. The higher education institution in Sri Lanka, especially in the government national universities, before that they never used the online. But after the pandemic situation, the technology developments, so together, then most of the organization nowadays, then they go for the online supermarkets deliveries, fast food restaurants deliveries, higher education institution, the teaching, learning, assessment for both, for all aspects they apply the technological development, and spending much more research and development by many organizations. And legal, employment laws time to time revise, and health and safety, that is very important during the period of COVID-19. Some legal things are there, how to protect the health and safety. But nowadays also health and safety, food processing organization, foods producing organization, the instant meals and all that, they have to follow the health and safety. Other organization also, can you remember some organization, if they couldn't concern about, I think 2-3 years before, the one of the companies which is producing blouses or something like in Horana, then 2 lives lost, the very huge tanks, then the 2 people, you know, that put into that tank, then they will lose their lives also because of the chemicals and all that. So these kind of a thing, health and safety, we have to concern about that. Then especially we had experiences COVID-19, the natural disasters, which kind of rules, regulations we have to follow, health and safety. Now all these are PESTEL framework. Now these factors also we can apply in the global environment analysis. PESTEL factors. What about the globally political, economical, social, technological, ecological, and environmental legal factors changing, and how they impact to my organization? Because these changes not the same way influence into organization, different levels, different degrees. That's why something like economical changes mostly influence to some organization lesser degree. Then higher education institution is highly influenced by the government higher education policies, but it is not the same way influenced to other organizations. So different degrees, different ways, then they are influencing to organizations directly, indirectly, as well as then higher degree or lesser degree. Then what about the PESTEL analysis implications? What about the PESTEL analysis, the implications? The influence, implication means influence. The PESTEL analysis, political, economical, social, technological, environmental, and legal analysis. To analyze the changing macro environment within a country, factors which are drawing out implications for the organization, influence. To understand what? It is very important. One factor is to understand the links between these factors. That is the very important. What about? Sometimes political change, it influenced to economical changes. It influenced to social changes. Now, you know that Sri Lanka, we had a in Sri Lanka, now you know that we had something like an economic problem initially because foreign exchange rate, then we didn't have the currency. Then in Sri Lanka, we don't have the foreign currency. Something like a starting point happening the economic crisis, but it is influenced by what? The political, the government policies. Government policies creating something like an economic crisis or economic problem, the government policies. But it affects to the economic crisis, and economic crisis again infers to political crisis and social crisis in Sri Lanka, the social crisis also. Then that is very important. Something like it relates to technological problems also. One factor changing. To understand the links between these factors, something like economic factor influence to the social factor influence to the technological factor, like that way. That is the very important thing. For example, technology development. We assume that some kind of a particular technology development may simultaneously change economic factors. For example, creating new jobs. You know that technological advancements, information technological advancements, creating some new jobs. Now you know that data entry operator, some years before, there is not like that kind of a position, data entry operator. Because of the technological developments coming to some creating new jobs. And social factors, it influences technological development to social factors change. Why? Facilitating more leisure. You know that technological development, some products produce. It makes what? Making the easy to life, facilitating more leisure. And it also influences to environmental factor, sometimes reducing the pollution. Some technological advancements like hybrid, electrical car, technological advancements, then influence into some organization to produce environmental pollution, reducing automobiles. Now, you can understand based on this example, one sub-environmental factor changing, it affects to other environmental factors to change. Okay, that kind of a influence is here. In a PESTEL analysis, we can understand that among these factors having a relationship, then they influence to each other to change. Then further, I am bringing a practical example. Now you can understand that there is an interrelationship between these factors. Then I am taking how macro environment influence a particular organization. We assume macro environmental change is a technology. Technological advancements are there. Technological environment, technological advancements are there. Technology developments, what drive to, what influence to some organization. Some organization, they are producing technology related items, electronic items, automobiles, or other kind of thing. Then influence to what? To go for new things, inventions, drive of change. Then go for, because of the new technology, which kind of inventions. And outcome is what? New products are introducing. Now, as an example, think about that a particular organization is producing electronic items. Then they go for washing machines. New washing machine, new product. It affects to what? New washing machine means put in the clothes, wash, dry, and iron. Then invented the new one. So it helps to what? Impact to the change of the customer lifestyle. It makes something like easy to the lifestyle. Then what about? Finally, to organization, it influences to achieve their mission and also to practice the strategies. So this is the way how, taking practical example, the macro environmental factor, how influence to organization, then interrelating to each sub-environments also. Yes, I think you can understand well. Finally, now we talk about that PESTEL. Then these kind of thing, PESTEL framework, we can apply the same changes in a globally. Globally, what happened to Sri Lankan business organization? Globally changes the political economy. That's why I talk about that. I am talking to match with the global environment as well as in a country, societal or macro environment. Now we assume that globally also we analyze these things. These changes how impact to Sri Lankan organization. Then to determine which kind of impact is having, this is something like practically how we can measure it quantitatively. Now we can understand political, economical, social, environmental, legal, analyze and understand by managers, giving a score. අගයක් දෙනවා මේ factors වල කොහොමද බලපාන්නේ? Globally political changes, how impact to Sri Lankan business organization. We decided whether highly favorable. Now you know that these refer, HF refers highly favorable, F refers favorable, highly favorable, M refer moderate or medium, moderate, neutral, and unfavorable, highly unfavorable. These abbreviations, the standing I have given bottom of the slide. Now we analyze these things internationally changes, how impact to my organization which is operating in Sri Lanka. The same thing we can apply to the global environmental, and finally how to make a decision based on some values attached. So highly favorable we can give the 5, favorable 4, moderate 3, unfavorable 2, highly unfavorable 1. This is the way we are giving the score. Values attached. And if we say the global political changes, whether may be highly favorable or favorable, giving 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you know that statistically, we can understand, we can have the much more, reality understand, giving the weights. අපිට පුළුවන් අර බර තැබීම් කරන්න මේ එකිනෙකට එතකොට දෙන value එකත් එක්ක වැඩි කළාම we can have the real value. Now what about the weights? Then as an example, in this situation, for this organization mostly influence the global environmental changes. අපේ organization එකට වැඩිම බලපාන්නේ globally environmental changes. So 25% as a percentage, 25. Next is a political changes, 20%. Out of 100, we are giving the weight. So what we give the political, global political changes influence to my organization is favorable. I will give you the 4. 4 and multiply by this weight. It means 0.20, it means 20%. Then we have the real value. Likewise, for this factor, economically, we can give the unfavorable 2 multiply by the weight. Like that way, for each case relevant to each factor, we can assign the score and multiply by given the weights. It depends on the nature of the organization. So finally coming, what about in each fact the total, and what about this value? We can determine the global environment factors are which kind of a way influencing to my organization. Highly favorable or favorable, moderate, highly unfavorable or unfavorable situation. Based on the value coming to the total, we can determine it. Okay. The same procedure what we can apply to here. what we can apply to, this is a global environment, and also same thing we can apply just before I mentioned macro or societal environment. The same procedure within a country, political, economical, social, technological, environmental, legal factors, how influence to my organization. Here giving the weights. Now the Sri Lankan organization, when we concern about another organization as an example, the political factors are the 40% influence to my organization. In order to that, analyze these factors and assign with a highly favorable, favorable, moderate, unfavorable, highly unfavorable, given the score and multiply by given the weight for each factor, we can have the total. And finally, then we can total based on this value, we can understand that whether they are influencing a highly favorable or unfavorable or moderate, we can decide. Okay, this is the way of we can analyze the macro and the global environment through PESTEL framework. PESTEL framework. Based on this also, finally, what we do? Local pest analysis. We can understand global pest analysis, what kind of opportunities and threats given in a politically, socially, culturally, technological. What kind of opportunities and threats given? Either may be a threat, either may be an opportunity. And identify these opportunities and threats to my organization. How decide the critical factors, success and failure. Identify the critical factors means success factors and failure factors. And understand the current local and global strategic position. Either may be a favorable or unfavorable or moderately favorable. Apida passe anduna ganna pulan mekkin passe apita thiyena ada current position එක in a good situation or bad situation, or something like globally favorable but locally unfavorable, something like. Then based on this, we can shape or reshape a strategic direction. Now, when you are coming to here in external environment analysis, we have already decided what? Our future direction, vision, mission, goals, and objectives. But after having done our external environment, we feel that our goals and objectives should be reshaped, revisited, and modified. Then අපි මේවා decide කරගෙන ආවත් අපිට then after that, because these kind of changes may be happen very often. So different positions, something like situation, then the opportunities, threats may be different. Today opportunity, tomorrow may be a threat. Then revisited and revise our goals and objectives, but not changing our vision and mission, but reshape our goals and objectives. Then what we do? We formulate the strategies or reformulate the existing strategies. We can modify or formulate the strategies. So this is the way going on. The PESTEL model we can apply to analyze. Here we talk about the both environments, global as well as the macro environment. The same procedure we can apply to both environmental layers analysis. Then we can go for another tool or technique, key drivers for change. Key drivers for change. A student, do you want a 10 minutes break? Then continuously listening to the online lectures, it makes something like a boring. I know that whether you are sleeping or engage in another work, because sometimes you enter to the Zoom and you are doing your own work. Do you want any break? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am. Let's take a break.
Yes. Okay. Now the 9:25 and 9:40 you can come back. I will give you the 15 minutes break. I don't know, some students, they need to have the breakfast also. Then you can have the break. After that 9:40 you will come back to continue the session. Okay, have a break now.
Thank you, madam.
Okay, now we continue the session after the break. I think now the time is okay. I ask you to come back to the session 9:40, 15 minutes break. Now, before the break, we discussed the macro or societal environment in a country, but we discuss one tool, PESTEL. It could be applied in a global environment also, then we discuss both together. And another technique, you know that you understood well, another technique is key drivers for change. Key drivers means what are the most influencing factors to organization. It differs from organization to organization. Now, you know that in banks or financial institutions are affected by mostly the economic factors. Something like other organization like textile, the food, the most influencing factor is the social changes. The technological related items producing organization, the technology is the key driver. Likewise, we have to analyze the key drivers for change. Out of the political, social, cultural, technological, environmental, legal factors, which factors are most influencing? What are the key drivers of change in the macro environment which influence the organization? Most influencing factor. Key drivers for change are environmental factors that are likely to have what? Most important means the high impact on the success or failure of the strategy. We have to understand. They are the forces like to affect the structure of an industry, sector and market. These kind of a key drivers also change a particular industry also. The structure of the industry and a particular sector or market. These are very important in understanding the key drivers for change. As an example, key drivers for change. Now, as an example, clothing retailer, textile retailer may be primarily influenced by what? Social changes. This kind of a nature of organization, earlier I mentioned you that the textile industry, the social changes. Likewise, the clothing retailer is affected by mostly social changes. What about the people attitudes, their values, their behavior patterns changing? As an example, what about the customer taste, preferences, and their behavior? For example, forces encourage in Sri Lanka some kind of a period of time. You know that in the clothing retailer, more concerned about the handloom, textile. Then out of town shopping, the batik and all that, there is a trend. People taste, preferences are changing. Their attitudes are changing. So this is a one example how key driver, the environmental changes, out of them, what is the key driver for a particular business organization? The computer manufacturing organization, we assume that computer manufacturer is likely to be concerned about what? Technological changes. That is the key driver. For example, increases in microprocessor speeds. Now you can understand that the different organizations, after having understanding the key drivers, they may be different organization to organization by their nature. Actually, to apply the key drivers for change, what kind of a factors mostly influence it based on what? PESTEL. PESTEL information are needed to identify key drivers for change. එකයි කිව්වේ අපි interrelated කියලා. මොකද මේ PESTEL එක කරන්න ඕනේ ඒක information තමයි then used to identify the key drivers for change. Then key drivers for change, influence, implications. Identify key drivers for change helps managers to what? Focused on the PESTEL factors. I talk about that PESTEL information is very important, are the most important and which must be addressed as the highest priority. Without the clear sense of the key drivers for change, analyzing the PESTEL, and out of that information, we could identify which factors are most influencing. If they do not clear understanding, what about managers will not be able to take the decisions. It is somewhat difficult to formulate the strategic decisions that allow for effective action. Therefore, managers should understand that after having done the PESTEL and identify what are the influencing factors, based on that, out of them, which factors are the key drivers to my organization? it could be identified. Then we are moving to next. Third analysis is what? Tool. Scenario. Building scenarios. I think building scenarios. Then I want to, that building scenarios. I want to have some the blank one. Yes. I want to explain. Building scenarios. Scenarios are what? Different situations. It says that scenarios are detailed and plausible. Plausible means the plausible. We are happy. Possible. Possible views of how the business environment of an organization might develop the future based on key drivers. In future, what are the factors most influencing change about which there is a high level of uncertainty. Now, I am coming to discuss very simple way. Building scenario technique or tool that can be applied, the most suitable situation is where the organizations are operating in a highly uncertainty environment. Uncertainty environment. Because even it is so difficult to even what may be the tomorrow. Uncertainty. Uncertainty situation. What we do before formulating a strategies, we macro environment, we develop a scenarios, possible situation, because it is so difficult to identify something because that much of uncertainty in the environment. So I am explaining by using an example, the scenario analysis. I talk about that under what circumstances this tool is much more applicable. Uncertainty environment, where the organizations, some organization, they are operating uncertainty environment. Now, as an example, in Sri Lanka, I am taking a transport services providing organization. Transport services. Some organizations are there, they provide the transport services organization. Now, you know that Sri Lanka, past couple of 2 years and continuously, what about the oil prices are uncertainty environment, because we can't predict what may be the oil prices. Then you know that drastically increasing, something like a small way of percentage decreasing. Somewhat in Sri Lanka, oil prices in the world market and what may be the Sri Lankan market, it is something like uncertainty. So this is a transport services company. This is the main factor, oil. Oil prices determine the transport services prices. Now, under such circumstances, the oil prices, it is so difficult to determine, maybe increase or maybe decrease. At that time, we are going to identify some possible scenarios. Scenario 1, scenario 2, scenario 3, scenario 4 maybe happen in future for this company. Considering oil prices in the world market, and what about the government policy? You know that in Sri Lanka, oil prices going up in the world market, and government policy decided whether increasing the local prices or not. So one possible scenario is, in the world market, oil prices going up, and government policy also increase the oil prices. Under this scenario, the mevage tathwayak ආවොත්, what about the strategy, pricing a strategy of the transport services company? Then we develop these scenarios. The next step, formulating a strategy, is the strategy they formulated, pricing a strategy. Here what we do, we develop possible scenarios. Now, second one is world market oil prices going down. What about the government policy going down? What about the strategy? Second scenario. The Third scenario, oil prices going up, government policy stable, not increasing or decreasing. What about the pricing strategy? Here, oil prices, something like going down, government policy stable. Likewise, we can develop based on the uncertainty situation, the possible scenarios we develop. So next time, we develop a suitable strategies. When the organization or company in future will meet this scenario and apply the in advance develop a strategy. Sometimes this scenario, apply this. Now I think you understand that what about the scenario analysis under the high level of uncertainty environment where the organization is operating. For some organization, we develop a scenarios. Now in generally companies also, they develop plan A, B, C. Plan A will not come right, plan B. B will not come right, 3, like that way. The same way, here scenario buildings, we develop the possible scenarios and next time, then they develop the suitable strategies for each scenario. They typically bet based on what? This scenario building based on what? Pestel analysis. That is another important feature among the macro environmental factors. What about the interrelations? Analysis and the key drivers for change. Both are very important. Pestel and the key drivers for change. Do not offer a single forecast. Sometimes we can't forecast a single situation and how the environment will change. We have to develop many scenarios. Yes, now we are coming to next to understand. I think all the students, you can understand that the scenario analysis in macro environmental analysis. What about the importance or implications, impact, building scenarios? Make managers more perceptive, sensitive about the forces in the business environment and what is really important. Actually, building scenarios, managers can understand that sensitive. දැනගන්න පුළුවන් මොනවාද forces in business environment, what is really important. Managers are able to evaluate and develop strategies if build the scenarios, the possible things, contingency plans we develop for each scenario. That is another important thing. Managers will be able to monitor the environment to see how it is actually unfolding, revealing, and adjust the strategies accordingly. Actually, scenario build up, we can see how it is reveal the different strategies to suitable to different scenarios and adjust strategies accordingly. Building scenarios. Then as overall, what about the implications of the macro environment? As overall, now up to here, we discuss within a country macro environment analysis. What are the influence to organization in strategy formulation? We can understand the macro environment. There are two, global and societal. Global and societal. Can you understood that I explained that the very outer layer divided into global environment outside to the country and within the country, societal or macro. We can understand what global, local pestilent factors. We can analyze politically, economically, social, then technologically, natural or legal environmental factors. Here we concern about the pestilent. Pestel, some says pestilent, political, economical, social, technological, natural. Then here concern about the legal factors, but sometimes they are concerning about inside the political factors, legal factors together. That's why pestilent. Which of are the most important? You know that key driver analysis, we can understand that what are the most important factors in the next couple of years. Then that is another importance of macro environment. What are the key drivers of change we could identify? Macro environment influence. And also finally, we could identify what are the opportunities and threats seriously influence my future strategy direction based on the macro environmental and global environment factors, analyzing political, social, cultural, technological, natural factors. And what are the critical trends and uncertainty? What are the most important critical success factors and failures factors? And what kind of uncertainties we may face in future? We can understand. Overall, the overall macro environment analysis, very outer layer, we can analyze how is the macro forces influence the current and potential industries. We could identify that also by the analysis of the macro environmental forces. Now, these are the some of the important factors or implications derived from macro environment analysis. Now we are moving to next. What about analyzing industry and the sector? Can you remember how we divide into our external environment layers? We could identify that global environment, societal environment. This is a global, very outer layer. This is a societal. These two we could identify it as a macro environment. Then the industry or sector. Another one, competitors and markets. Competitors and markets. Markets mean customers. Now we are moving to this. These two are macro environment, global and societal. Now we are coming to this analysis, industry or sector analysis, where the organization belong industry or belong sector. We have to separately analyze to understand the opportunities and threats, which gives from the industry, the belong industry. Then industry analysis, managers. Now you are reading for enhancing the knowledge strategy, business strategy. You should understand that here, before starting the industry analysis, the relevant key terms, very important. What about the key terms? You should understand what about the sector? What about the sector? Initial. Then these are the important things you can understand that. What is the sector? What is the industry? What is the markets? Within that industry, you should understand. First, we move to understand the sector. Students, we can understand that in Sri Lanka, according to the central bank, how divide the Sri Lankan economy, main three sectors. According to the central bank, our economy divided into three sectors. Any student? What about the three sectors? Chaturi, Gunamardana, Dilshan, Chaturanga, Chinta, Megala innada Delmi, Daminda. Yes, one student put into the chat box. Private and public sector. Some students, they are put in the chat box. Some says that public sector and private sector. Is that the way central bank divided our Sri Lankan economy? Private and public? We can also divide for the different purposes. I am asking according to the central bank. The central bank report how our economy divided into
manufacturing,
yes,
manufacturing, agriculture, Service.
Service. Manufacturing, is it correct?
Industry sector, service sector, and agriculture sector.
Yes, yes, good. Some situation we can divide the manufacturing sector for our purposes. But I ask, according to the central bank, the 3 sectors we divided: agricultural. You can go to the central bank report also. Agricultural, some students say industrial, and services sector. This is the way. But we, for our different purposes, we divide, like manufacturing sector, like that way we divide. So according to the central bank, agriculture, industrial, and services sector. This is the way we divided. Okay. Then one of students also put into the chat box in a correct way. Then students, you can understand correctly defining the industry. First, you should understand sector. What is the sector?
Sector is a collection of same class of organization, business organizations.
Sector is same
Class of business organizations. Similar class of business organizations. Hotel sector, banking sector.
That is the sector or industry. We can identify like, yes, then a good attempt. Sector means a group of closely, not organization, related industries. Now the agricultural sector, all related industries, tea, rubber, coconut, and other kind of agriculture. Related industries, which engage in related business in that industry. Collection of industries. Sector එකක් හදන්නේ industries කීපයකින් related to that sector. Industries, one student talked about that just before. Your understanding directly related to the industry. Industry is a collection of organizations which are producing closely or similar goods and services for each other, and that satisfy human needs and wants. Now here we could identify agriculture, services sector, services, all services industries, transport and education, health, and other kind of services. All are industries, similar industries which are producing services coming under the services sector. Likewise, we say that manufacturing sector for our purposes, the central bank manufacturing, all manufacturing related industries, we could identify manufacturing sector. Now, for our purpose, central bank purpose apparel sector. Then all industries which are related to the apparel. Industry means collection of organization. Collection of organizations, similar goods and services producing. Then they satisfy the similar human needs and wants. Industry boundaries may change. Something like industry boundaries may change their customer needs, technological changes. May industry boundaries වෙනස් පුළුවන්. Then within that industry, markets and market segments are there. Markets and market segment. Market segment is one very clear group of customers within a particular industry. In an industry, markets are there because the market is consisted with customers. They are having similar needs and wants. Similar needs and wants. The market segment. Sometimes in textile industry, market segments may be gender-wise, males and females. Market segment in a clothing industry. In the shoe industry, markets like age-wise market segment. Shoe hadana organization එකක් ගත්තොත් ඒක age-wise differentiate වෙන්න පුළුවන්, gender-wise differentiate වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Then the school, school children and non-school children, office wears, like that way segment the market. Segment means distinct group and having customers within a particular industry, their needs and wants are similar. So can be differentiated from each other. Market segments may be different to each other with what about distinct attributes, very clear characteristic and specific customer needs and wants. Now, you know, then your toys industry segment the market age-wise, under 1 year, 1 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, the toys, like that way, age-wise, we can segment the market. Yes, I think now you can understand the key terms: sector, industry, markets, market segment. But I'm taking an example. I'm taking this example in USA because USA, their economy, then they could identify separate computer sector. The USA economy එක separate sector computer, because the very reputed all companies are established like USA. So then they could identify separately the computer sector. The industries and market segment within that sector. Then I analyze in the America, then one of the sectors, computer. You know that sector is what? Collection of industries sector. Earlier you understood. So in the USA, computer sector included these 3 industries. What about these 3 industries? Computer component manufacturing industry, computer hardware manufacturing industry, computer software industry. Because in the computer sector, software also needed. The software is a separate industry, and the hardware and the component. But these 3 industries together, they make the sector, computer sector. And when we consider the computer component sector, these kind of segments are there. Now, when I consider the hardware, mainframe industry, personal computer industry, and handheld computer industry. These are the 3 market segments. Three industries. This sector, considering this sector, then these kind of you know, that manufacturing industries are there. When we consider the one industry, personal computer industry, these are the market segments. Markets or market segment. Some are notebook personal computers, desktop personal computers, and server. These are the 3 requirements. So when we consider a particular industry, it has with the segments, market segments. And also when we consider the sector, it is consisted by different industries, but which are producing similar goods and services. So you can understand that in practical example, I have taken from the USA market. The important thing is, now this is an industry. Now industry, these kind of forces are there. I know that you don't have any idea, but some students, they should know. These are 5 forces in a particular industry. But you think about, this is an industry. Existing firms, like potential competitors who are seeking to enter this company, and also suppliers and the buyers and substitutes, products producing companies. The important thing is, this is a macro environmental variables, global and within a country. Social, political, demographic, global factors are there, technological factors. So these changes, what may be, shape the industry environment. Changes may be there in industries based on the changes happened in the macro environment. Macro environment. I think now you can understand that. Changes in the forces in the macro environment. අපි අර කලින් කතා කරේ macro, global and societal environmental changes directly impact what? Changes in the industry. එක බලපාන්නේ industry එකට බලපාලා තමයි organization එකට එන්නේ. What about the macro environmental changes, political, economical, social, natural, legal, environmental factors, what determines which industries are attractive, which industries. Now, you know that a simple example I am taking nowadays, even in schools, also the universities actually no blackboards. All are now the whiteboards and smart boards. Now smart boards. What about some industries very attractive, very attractive. Now the higher education industry also very attractive nowadays. Industry structures may be changed. Now the large scale business organization established medium, small say are a view and venas ennat puluwan me macro environmental changes. Another one is industry boundaries may be changed. Industry එකට තියෙන සීමාවන් වෙනස් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Now, as an example, industry boundaries, because of the technological advancements and other things, social changes, airline industry. One day also I talk about that. Airline industry boundaries change. Then they, what about merge with, converge with? The word is converge with. What about hotel industry? The hotel එකත් එක්ක එකතු වෙලා තියෙනවා. And what about the other one? Entertainment industry. Airline industry. Because when we, something like a visiting to another country, when we are going to buy air tickets from an agent or something like, they ask, do you want a hotel reservation? Or we can have to provide entertainment facilities to trips organized and all that when you travel into a particular country. So then we can identify, and changes maybe happen, these macro environmental changes. Students, you can understand that the locally as well as globally, the political, economical, social, cultural, social and cultural, technological, natural environmental changes, something like determine the industry attractiveness, industry structure, industry boundaries, and also 5 forces within an industry. Next time you can understand well, in industry analysis, we can identify these are the 5 forces. I think when you come into here, some students, they have to have the first degree. Some are coming from the management stream. You know that the 5 forces. Particular industries consisted with these 5 forces. Later on, you can understand. Till then, these 5 forces may be changed. What about the bargaining power of customers, buyers, suppliers, the substitutes, the existing firms? We can identify. And in a particular industry, what about? Industry players means organizations are there within a particular industry. So their strengths may be changed. What about changes in the forces in the macro environment? The macro environment changes, බලපානවා industry එකේ තියෙන changes ඇති කරා. Industry එකේ changes. So that is the most important thing. Then after that, they influence to organization via industry, macro environmental changes. Then macro environmental changes, political, social, cultural, technological, natural environmental changes. Some industries emerge, new industries. Some industries decreasing, vanishing. Evading means the vanishing, decreasing. Then we have to concern about it in formulating strategies. Emerging strategies are new and growing industries due to opportunistic macro environmental influences changes. Knowledge process outsourcing. Most of the organization, some parts, the knowledge process outsourcing, business process outsourcing sometimes happen, the new trend, production outsource, marketing outsource, HRM outsource, because of the technology changes also. Likewise, business functions may be outsourced to another companies or organization. And there is a trend of what? Online degrees. Now, in Sri Lankan context particularly, you know that online higher education is already developed due to the macro and the global environment. Actually, in Sri Lankan context, due to the COVID-19, the natural environmental disaster, after that, it influences what? To emerge the online deliveries for supermarkets, online deliveries, higher education, online degrees, and also there is a trend of using people the smartphones. So these are the something like emerging industries, and also diminishing or declining, vanishing industries are that are progressively extinguished as a result of threatening macro environmental factors. Now we couldn't find out camera reels, cassettes, diskettes, CDs, OCRT, LCD, TVs, chalkboards. Now these are vanishing, diminishing industries. Some are emerging industries. So then you could identify that macro environmental changes, social, societal, and the global environmental changes reshape the industry. Then you understood what about the industry and their nature. What about the sector? Industry is a group of firms producing the same principle of service. Banks, banking industry, insurance industry, health industry, education, higher education industry, ceramic industry, tea industry, coconut industry, and the rubber industry, supermarket industry. So we could identify a large number of industries, but industry is a collection of firms or organizations producing the same good or service. Understanding of the competitive forces in the industry or sector for what? Useful in determining which industries are attractive, which industries success and failure. This kind of understanding is very important for what? To formulate strategies. Because industry attractiveness is very important, and what are the success and failure factors in a particular organization, relevant industry understanding is very important. So for that purpose, we have to separately analyze the industry. Then what about the main tool that can be applied to analyze the industry? Five forces model. Pancha Balavega Akurtiya කියලා කියනවා in Sinhala. Five forces model. Then this model we could apply to analyze the particular industry. Then this analytical framework helps to what? A particular organization to identify the extent of competition. Five forces model we can apply to understand in a particular industry what about the competition and also attractiveness. Attractiveness high means what? It makes the high competition that exists in a particular industry can build its capacities and capabilities what? To position itself and gain sustainable advantage over its competitors. Now you know that what about the strategy? Strategy we formulate bring the competitive advantage over the other competitors. For that purpose, industrial analysis is very important to identify which kind of a competition in the banking industry, which kind of competition in the insurance industry, which kind of a competition in the higher education industry, which kind of a competition in the supermarket industry. Likewise, we can understand the competition, degree of competition in a particular industry, as well as how far attractive that industry before formulating the strategies to bring the competitive advantage, the sustainable competitive advantage. දීර්ඝකාලයක් රඳව ගන්න පුළුවන් sustainable competitive advantages gained නම් අපිට own industry එකේ competition එක to understand and how far the degree of attractiveness. For that purpose, we can apply the five forces model. actually, I have selected to discuss at this level the 5 forces model, which is most popular. The 5 forces framework. It is developed by who? Michael Porter. You can understand that Michael Porter is the person who developed 5 forces framework, but which is very popular among practicing managers to understand the competition of a particular industry. The 5 forces framework helps identify the attractiveness of an industry. What about this industry attractiveness? Attractiveness is high. Akarshane වැඩි නම්, what about the competitiveness also very high of industry or sector in terms of competitive forces. 5 forces framework, the name implies that 5 forces, it makes the industry. Now these are the 5 forces. These are the 5 forces introduced by 5 forces model. One 5 force may industry ke attractiveness වැඩි කරන්න, competition එක වැඩි කරන්න, අඩු කරන්න. Then one of the important force is risk of entry by potential competitors. Which kind of a risk level for the investors, potential investors who are seeking to enter the industry? එතකොට තරංකාරීත්වය ඇති කරන කවුද මේ ඉන්ඩස්ට්‍රි එකට එන්න බලාගෙන ඉන්න potential investors ලා. ඒගොල්ලන්ට risk එක වැඩි කියන්නේ what about? Attraction is high and the competition is also high. And what about the existing firms? Intensity of rivalry among existing firms, existing organization now in the industry, which kind of a competition they are creating? Severe competition or moderate level or low competition. Other one is, in a particular industry consists of organizations, similar goods and services. What about the bargaining power of buyers? How far buyers are powerful? Buyers means what? Customers. Who are the customers? How far they are having a bargaining power? Because they can move to another organization if something, that feel that this organization is not so good. And other one is other force making the particular industry competition, bargaining power of suppliers. Who are the organization providing raw materials and other supplies? Other one is making the competition, threat of substitutes. Which kind of organization producing very similar substitute products to that company? Now, tea, coffee. අපිට tea වෙනුවට substitute එකක් තමයි coffee or coffee tea. Then this kind of a way, threat of substitutes. Then I am coming to discuss the 5 forces model. Now you can understand that in understanding the competition within an industry, competition, the stronger that each of these 5 forces, I talk about these 5 forces, how far they are very strong, the more limited is the ability of established companies to raise prices and earn greater profits. Sometimes in the industry, these 5 forces are, that very competitive. It means what? The existing firms, it is difficult to raise prices and greater profits. Students, I ask, in a particular industry, competition is high. Is it an opportunity or threat? Very quickly. High competition in the industry. Opportunity or threat for a particular organization within that industry. Yes.
Usually it is a threat, but sometimes it may be a opportunity also. If any
Yeah.
company has
Higher
innovative product,
competition.
that is an opportunity.
Yeah, higher competition always a threat, but less competition opportunity. Okay. Then a low competitive score, less competition may be viewed as what? Opportunity for organization which are operating within that industry. It allows the company earn great profit. low competition. But high competition, then earlier student talk about that it may be a threat. And also depress what? Then industry profits. They influence to earn the less profits. So you can understand low competition is the opportunity, high competition is a threat. Therefore, strength of forces may change as industry conditions change. Then something like industry conditions are changed by macro environmental factors. Something like strengths of forces may be changed. However, competitive strategies could be devised based on the strengths and weaknesses. The strategies we have to formulate after having analyzed the industry, we could identify what about the strengths and weaknesses in the industry. Within an organization, industry strengths and weaknesses, what about high or low level? Then we can understand that overall industry competition with a high or low, it determines the next time what are the suitable strategies to bring the competitive advantage for an organization. Then I am coming to discuss each one, how it makes the competition within the industry. I am going for initially risk of entry. This kind of order I am going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To understand how each factor behaves for an organization, what kind of a competition. Then risk of entry by potential competitors. Then who are the companies or outside companies are not currently competing within the industry, but they are having a potential capability to do so if they choose. If they feel to enter a particular industry, then what kind of a barriers having for new entrants? Barriers high. What about risk of entry potential competitors? Risk also very high. The inside, it is a severe competition. So what about the risk of entry potential competitors? What are the factors influencing within a particular industry? Industry එකක් තුළ මොන factors ද ඇති කරන්නේ potential competitors ලාට high risk එකක් ඇති කරන. One is the economics of scale. Now some industries, organizations, they are producing economies of scale. Then the large quantity, මහා පරිමාණ scale එකකට produce කරනවා, economies of scale. I'm asking you, the existing companies within a particular industry, they are getting economics of scale advantages, whether it makes competition, high competition or low competition for potential companies. Have you got my point?
It's a high competition.
Competition, yes. Threat, because existing firms, they are enjoying the economics of a scale. Then some companies, then they are producing bulk, then some cost they can minimize, like a fixed cost. So then they are getting advantages. It makes a competition for newcomers. Alutin in firms threat then high competition. Other one is a brand loyalty. Some organization, existing firms, they achieve some high level of brand loyalty by customers. At that time, it makes a high brand in loyalty, high risk of the industry. Absolute cost advantage, something like some situation, they are getting some cost advantages, fixed cost advantages. And some 500 units had what, 5,000 units had what, same cost. Fixed cost. At that time, something like it makes a severe threat to newcomers. And customer switching cost for buyers, were significant some situation. Actually, have you understood the switching cost? One day I explained. the laugh and the shell gas. I am using the shell gas, but the laugh gas prices have gone down, but I can't move. Switching cost. What about I have to pay and buy another, that empty cylinder. The customer switching cost for buyers is high. Not all industries, some industries, then it makes a severe competition. And government regulation. Some situation government regulate, like government declared monopoly situation. Then all these are the changes, whether it could be influenced like potential competitors who are seeking to enter. High or low or moderate level. Then we can understand that what kind of a situation may. It determines opportunity or threat. Then other one is existing companies. Existing. Some students asking economics of a scale. I think when you're coming to here, you can understand economics of a scale. Mahaparimana Arthika Vasi Ganna. Now you know that some organization, if when they operated long period of time, economies of a scale. When organization they are producing bulk. විශාල පරිමාණව නිෂ්පාදනය කරනකොට ඒගොල්ලන්ට තියෙනවා economics of a scale. What about cost could be minimized? Cost, economics of scale. Now you know that sometimes if you are producing 500, the fixed cost is 5 lakhs. If you produce 100 also, 5 lakhs fixed cost. Then when the company producing more, the fixed cost is same for certain level. Then they are getting the economics of a scale. Sometimes when they are producing large quantity, the high scale, large quantity, some other kind of expenses could be minimized. And income is there, same income, but production cost and maintenance cost we can reduce from the economies of scale. මහා පරිමාණ ආර්ථික වාසි ගන්න පුළුවන් ඕගනයිසේෂන් වලට ඉන්ඩස්ට්‍රි එක තියෙනවා නම් වැඩිපුර it makes a risk for newcomers. Newcomers ලා ඇවිල්ලා මේව කරන්න ඒගොල්ලන්ට වෙලාව යනවා. So then these are the risk of entry potential competitors. Yes, one student asked that question. I don't know how far have you got it or not, but I tried myself to explain well. Then other thing is, now you know that customer switching cost less, government regulation. Some organization government regulate, then at that time it is somewhat, you know that making difficulty to potential customers. Okay. Now, other one is rivalry among established companies. Existing companies, which kind of a competition they make? Existing companies. Industry competitive structure. What about the industry structure? Either including large scale organization, medium scale organization, or small scale organization. What about the industry competitive structure? Demand condition. In a particular industry, what about the demand for a particular goods and services? So demand is high. It is a, you know that existing firms having something like a competition. Demand is low, no competition. Cost conditions also there. Sometimes earlier, you know that existing firms, some firms, they try to minimize the cost. Some firms, they do not. Then cost conditions, they have to concern about. Now Toyota company, then they reduce their cost without storing. Storage cost is something like a not high. So Kanban system, their production system somewhat different. So then they can minimize some cost. And exit barriers. Existing firms, then they are making a barrier. They are making a barrier. Rivalry among established companies are high exit barriers. Now you know that some organization, like as an example, the Dialog. The Dialog island-wide, the large towers they constructed. But now they are unable to leave. They are unable to leave that kind of a situation because high exit barriers. Exit and they have spent much money and construct the towers and all that. So at that time, existing firms having competition. Then other one is bargaining power of buyers. What about the buyers? Customers. Industry buyers may be the consumers or end users who ultimately use the product to intermediaries. That actually sometimes the bargaining power of buyers, customers may be two types. One customer type is end user, other one consumer, something like consumers. So end users, one category. Both are one category, consumers and end users. But some are for the purpose of, that some companies, they buy the products to sell to other people. So buyers may be consumers and end users who ultimately use the product or intermediaries that distribute or retail the products. When sometimes buyers are very dominant, at that time they are more powerful. Now you know that some situations buyers are dominant. Now a particular period of time, our main buyer of rubber is main buyer of tea. Which country? Russia. අපේ මේ tea ගන්න වැඩිම quantity එකක් ගන්න රට තමයි Russia. Now you know that what about the buyers? If buyers are customers, consumers are more dominant, it means bargaining power is high. Buyer purchase in large quantities. Something like some customers, they buy the things in the large quantity. Their bargaining power is very high, powerful. These industries depend on the buyers. Sometimes some industries, now good example I talk about that in the country of Japan, then for automobiles, it is very important what? Steel. Then in Japan, very famous company is a Nippon Steel Company. Then the industries depend on the buyers, something like buyers are more powerful. And switching cost for buyers are low, not high, low. Buyers can purchase from several supplying companies at once. At that time also, bargaining power is high, and buyers can threaten to enter to the industry. Something like a buyers, they can threaten to enter the potential customers to potential investors to in the industry. They threat. Now, these kind of things may be happen when the buyers or customers are more powerful. And also bargaining power of suppliers. Suppliers are the people who provide the raw materials to the organization. It depends from organization to organization. Product supply is vital to industry and has few substitutes. And also the industry is not an important customer to suppliers. And switching cost for companies. Suppliers also having a switching cost. They supply some goods and services a particular organization with an agreement. But even though high prices are paid by another company, they are unable to go. The switching cost is difficult. But switching cost is a significant, but it is difficult to something like influence by suppliers. Companies can threaten to enter their customers in the industry, that kind of a thing. And companies in the industry cannot be threatened to enter suppliers industry. So these are something like bargaining power of suppliers, which create high competition or low competition in a particular industry. Substitute product. For a particular industry, what about the similar products? Tea, coffee. The existence of close substitute is a strong competitive threat. Substitutes are high, competition also very high. Many organizations are there. They are producing the similar goods and services. The existing number of close substitutes. Existing number of substitutes is also strong. What about the products? ආදේශක බාණ්ඩ වැඩි නම් එතනත් competition එකක්. ආදේශන බාණ්ඩ competitors ලා වැඩි නම් ඒකත් threat එකක්. Other things being equal, companies in the industry do not have the opportunity to raise prices and earn additional profit as wishes. So these kind of things may be happen. The substitute products, close substitutes, ළඟින් වෙන substitutes වැඩි වෙනකොටත් competition එක වැඩි. The more and more substitutes, then it makes the competitive firms make the competition is high. All these 5 makes the competition and decide this industry is high competition, higher degree or less degree, or attractiveness is very high or less attractiveness. These kind of things may be determined, and later on we can talk about implications of 5 forces model and key issues and rest of the parts. Students, then how we can understand the current competitive position after having analyzed these things. Earlier, what we talk about, the same template we can apply. Given the scores, what is my current competitive position in the industry environment? We analyze these 5 forces. Earlier, you are familiar with. We can understand they are highly favorable way of influencing, favorable, moderately unfavorable, high unfavorable, and giving the values 1 to 5 scale, and we give the weight in a particular industry. Considering my organization within industry, bargaining power of buyer is the more. Apparel industry, so bargaining power of buyers or customers are the very powerful. Allocate 40%. Suppliers, another thing is apparel industry, raw materials, the 25% weight. Other one is given like that. So what is the value score given and multiply by the weight given, and we can have the real values. And what is the value coming here? Total, we can decide whether the industry is more attractive or less attractive. What about the high competition or low competition or moderate level competition? The same template we can apply. From here, I stop the session today because 8 to 11, but little bit 10 minutes before I will over, because I want to start another class online. That's why I stop here, because this session is going on 2 sessions. So you can recall your memory what you have learned today. The external environment analysis, the global environment analysis, the societal environment analysis, and the industry analysis, but there is some part. Then you can also understand the some overview to the external environment. These are the things we discussed. We understood this and understood. Now we are here analyzing each environment. So finally, I come to SWOT analysis. But there is another 2 layers I have to analyze, the competitors and the markets. And there is a part on 5 forces model. Okay. Student, is there anything to ask before winding up the session for the today's? What you feel about the online class? I think first time, I don't know whether earlier have you studied the online? Not
Madam?
Yes, madam, we have done almost 40% of the last semester also online
last
sessions. This
semester.
semester also,
Yes.
yeah,
you
this
had
semester
to-
also we have been allocated 40% online classes, and
yeah. I
that's
thought
all
of that.
probably like long weekends and close to
Yes,
the
yes.
exam, I believe.
Yeah, I understood. I just asked you what about your experiences. I understood now. Then you practice. You have experiences. Last time also you participated online classes. What about if you feel okay for the today's session? But I'm
Yeah,
also
this is
happy.
perfectly. We got pestle analysis and the
Yes.
Fortress 5 forces. We got the content even during the last what we call the management accounting. Also, we have
Yes,
we
you
got
can
the
have
pestle
some
analysis, but it
understanding.
was not. Yeah, it was not in depth like this, but this is very attractive, madam.
Yeah,
Thank you very
okay.
much.
Okay. Okay, you're welcome. So then I hope that I try my best to do the online class in a maximum way, because using the pen also something like it is difficult to correctly write because on the screen. But anyway, I try my best to do the online session well. Hope that all the students, you have got an understanding. I will wind up the session for today's one. Then have a nice day to all students.
Have a
Thank you,
nice day,
madam.
Thank you,
madam. Thank you very
ma'am.
much.
Have a nice day.
Same to
Thank
you.
you, madam.
Thank you, madam.